Welcome, beloved family, to another inspiring episode of Enny's Diamond Stories, where real stories, faith, and truth meet to transform hearts. Today, we unfold a timeless story that began long before family feasts and roasted turkeys. A story born out of storms, hunger, survival, and divine mercy, the story behind Thanksgiving Day. This isn't just about a holiday, it's about the power of gratitude, how ordinary people faced impossible odds and discovered that a thankful heart can change the course of history. It all began in the year 1620. A group of men, women, and children climbed aboard a small wooden ship called the Mayflower. They were called the Pilgrims. They weren't explorers searching for treasures or kings seeking power. They were simple believers, weary of persecution, yearning for a place where they could worship God freely. The ocean they crossed was wild and unforgiving. Winds roared, waves thundered, and the sky turned black for days. People fell sick, children cried, some never survived. For 66 days, they fought against fear and fatigue until one morning, a faint line of land broke the endless sea. Their eyes filled with tears. They had reached the new world. But the land was cold, rocky, and unwelcoming. Their joy soon gave way to horror as winter arrived, freezing winds, no shelter, and little food. Every sunrise saw fewer faces. By spring, only half of the original travelers remained alive. It seemed the dream had ended before it began. Yet, in their weakest hour, divine mercy arrived through the most unexpected source. As the snow melted and hope flickered like a dying flame, help came from the indigenous people of the land. They were strangers who could have turned away, but instead, they brought wisdom and kindness. They taught the settlers how to plant corn, how to fish in frozen rivers, and how to preserve food for winter. Slowly, the land began to yield. By the next harvest, baskets overflowed with corn, fruits, and game. The survivors looked around and realized they had food, life, and peace. For the first time, they felt safe. They decided to set aside a special day to thank God for His mercy and to honor the friendship of their new neighbors. Together, the settlers and the indigenous people gathered in joy, sharing food, laughter, and dance. That day marked the beginning of what the world would one day call Thanksgiving Day. Years later, this practice of giving thanks spread beyond that small colony. As more settlers arrived and generations grew, communities began to hold yearly harvest feasts, always centered on gratitude to God. Meanwhile, across the northern border, another version of the same spirit was unfolding. In 1578, even before the Mayflower voyage, a man named Martin Frobisher landed on the icy shores of Newfoundland, Canada, after surviving deadly seas. He gathered his crew and gave thanks to God for their safe arrival. That was Canada's first Thanksgiving. Later, Canadian farmers began holding annual celebrations after successful harvests, thanking God for His blessings, protection, and provision. In 1879, Canada made Thanksgiving Day a national holiday, celebrated in October to mark the end of harvest before winter. Today, countries like the United States, Canada, Grenada, Liberia, and even the Philippines celebrate Thanksgiving Day in different months, yet all share one theme: gratitude to God for life, harvest, and mercy. But why is Thanksgiving Day always linked with turkey? In early America, wild turkeys roamed freely across the forests. They were large enough to feed whole families and easy to hunt. Chickens were too small, cows were precious for milk, and sheep were few. The turkey, humble and native to the land, became a symbol of God's natural provision, simple yet sufficient. Families began roasting it as a centerpiece meal, not because it was luxurious, but because it represented enoughness. A turkey on the table became a sign that the family had survived, worked, and been blessed once again. Over generations, that meal turned into a ritual, reminding families to gather, share, and give thanks. Though Thanksgiving Day has grown into a global celebration with parades, football games, and beautiful family feasts, its heart still whispers the same truth: gratitude is stronger than grief. It began with people who had lost everything, yet chose to thank God. It reminds believers that gratitude doesn't wait for abundance, it blooms even in brokenness. But how should Christians today celebrate Thanksgiving Day in a way that honors God and keeps its true meaning alive? For the believer, Thanksgiving Day should never be just another public holiday. It should be a sacred reflection of the soul, a personal altar of gratitude. Here are 7 practical, faith-filled ways Christians can celebrate the day. 1. Start with gratitude before the feast. Before the laughter and food, gather as a family and take a quiet moment. Let each person write down 3 things they are grateful for, not just blessings, but even painful lessons. Place those notes in a bowl and thank God for every single one. This turns the table into an altar of remembrance. 2. Invite God to the table. Many homes prepare food but forget the presence of the giver. Let the family begin the meal with worship and prayer. Read a psalm of thanksgiving, like Psalm 100 or 103, to remind everyone that food is a gift, not a guarantee. Allow the atmosphere to shift from ordinary to sacred. 3. Feed the hungry. Thanksgiving loses its meaning if it ends within 4 walls. Prepare extra plates for neighbors, widows, or families struggling to make ends meet. Visit a shelter or cook for someone alone. True gratitude always overflows in generosity. Remember, the first Thanksgiving was shared between those who had and those who helped. 4. Reconcile and forgive. It is hard to thank God with bitterness in your heart. Thanksgiving Day is the perfect opportunity to call a family member you've not spoken to, mend a friendship, or release a long-held grudge. Gratitude and forgiveness unlock the same door, peace. 5. Reflect, don't compare. Social media often turns Thanksgiving into a competition of perfect tables and flawless smiles. But true Thanksgiving is about contentment. It is the ability to say, I may not have everything, but I have enough. Instead of comparing blessings, count yours. Instead of posting your plate, feed your spirit. 6. End the day with worship. As the night grows quiet and the plates are empty, gather once more. Sing hymns, share testimonies, and thank God aloud for His faithfulness through the year. Thanksgiving is not complete without worship, because every good gift points back to the giver. 7. Make gratitude a lifestyle. Let Thanksgiving Day be a reminder, not a yearly event. Carry its spirit into your everyday life, into the workplace, church, and quiet moments. When gratitude becomes a lifestyle, peace and joy follow like shadows that never fade. The story behind Thanksgiving Day is more than history. It's a spiritual reminder that even in the darkest times, faith can find reasons to be thankful. The settlers didn't celebrate because life was easy, they celebrated because life was still sacred. They had lost loved ones but found new hope. They had faced hunger but discovered provision. They had been strangers but found friendship. Every believer today walks through their own seasons of storms and harvests, yet the lesson remains: gratitude turns survival into testimony. From frozen shores to warm dining rooms today, Thanksgiving Day continues to echo through generations, a day born out of pain, faith, and gratitude. It reminds us that even when we have little, there is always something to thank God for. Gratitude does not deny reality, it defines it through the eyes of faith. So, when you gather this year, whether your table is full or simple, let your heart whisper the same truth the early settlers knew: God has been faithful. If this story has inspired your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Enny's Diamond Stories. Here, every story shines with faith, hope, and life lessons that remind us that gratitude is the secret language of miracles. Stay tuned for more stories that speak light into the heart and show that even history, when told with faith, can lead us back to God. See you in the next video. Bye.